A warm welcome to Podcasts for Business. Podcasts for Business is all about helping businesses to share, well, your knowledge, your passion and your expertise. A Podcast for Business is brought to you in partnership with Network B2B. With networking groups across the UK, Network B2B is all about helping business connect, share information and grow. For more information on Network B2B, just check out networkb2b.co.uk. Now let me ask you a question. Do you find HR confusing? Do you get bamboozled? Do you set out to do the right thing only to have taken the wrong course of action and it leads to a bigger problem than you started with in the first place? And what about some of the myths around HR? Well, there's help at hand. In today's podcast, I'm joined by HR specialist Emma Armitage. Emma shares her knowledge in this podcast, but also details about a great new thing she's bringing to the marketplace to help businesses dispel those myths, break down the confusion, and really have feel empowered about HR. I talk with Emma next in this week's Podcast for Business.
Like to share news about your business, event, seminar or workshop? Simply email steve@stevetwynham.com.
It's a wonderful Wednesday morning. The sun is shining. It's a pleasure to be out and about again. And I'm meeting up with Emma Armitage today. Now, let me ask you a question to you, the listener. HR. What do you think when you hear those words? Are there myths around HR about what you can do, what you can't do? Are you confused? Does it bamboozle you? Does it seem all too complicated? Well, we've got great news for you because Emma has got something really exciting happening in the HR world. Emma, tell me more.
Hi, Steve. Thank you. Yeah, I am launching the HR Mastermind. I've been in HR for a long time, more years than I'd care to admit to be honest. And one of the things that I find a lot is that businesses as a whole really want to do the right thing with their staff. They really want to make sure that they're supported, that they're looked after. But the problem is, typically within a small business, they don't have the capacity or the resource to bring in their own internal or even outsource external HR. And what that means is that sometimes doing the right thing might be the wrong thing to do. So, for example, something I see an awful lot of is people who go off sick. And the business genuinely doesn't want to hassle them, doesn't want to bother them because they're off sick. But sometimes if somebody's off sick with stress or anxiety, that can be the worst thing to do. It just compounds the problem. So what I've put together is, it's a 12-week course. It's called the HR Mastermind. And it's a program for businesses that don't necessarily need to bring in their own HR support. They probably don't even need an external HR support once they've been through this. So I'm kind of doing myself out of a job. But what it does is it gives the businesses a grounding, a knowledge and an understanding of the basic rules, if you like, of HR. It means that when they are recruiting people, they are confident that they've got a process that they can follow. They will know what boxes need to be ticked. They will understand if somebody goes off sick, what they can do, what they can't do, and they won't be worried about treading on people's toes. They will understand if incidents happen at work, and always incidents happen at work. And quite often if something big happens, if there's a fight or an argument or, heaven forbid, some theft or something, the first reaction is just fire them. Mm-hmm. And while that might be the right outcome for the business can be bitten quite badly if they just haven't followed the right process. And it really causes a lot of resentment because they've got somebody that they know has done the wrong thing by them, but because they've reacted in the wrong way, they get taken to a tribunal and it costs them money. If they'd have just taken a step back, followed the right process, they would have still got the same outcome, but it would have just meant that in the longer term, it would have cost them less money.
You know, as you were talking there, what came to me there is, I'm just trying to put myself in a position of a small business. There's one other thing going through my head is like fear of doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's that great phrase, you don't know what you don't know, you know?
And that's true. You don't know what you don't know. And, you know, you think you're doing the right thing. You genuinely do. And some of the businesses that I help, I come to them on the end of a process because they've got that tribunal or because they've got that grievance, and it's because they were going to do the right thing and they thought they were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I want the mastermind to do is, it's never going to take over the role of HR. it's never going to replace HR. What it will do is give the person who, in small businesses, is typically the office manager, normally the finance department, quite often, if I'm honest, the MD's wife.
Right, okay.
They're generally the ones that get HR added to their role. HR is always added to somebody's role as something else that they can do. And I want to give those people the confidence and the tools that if something happens, they can go, right, okay, I remember that. We talked about that in the mastermind. So the mastermind it's a combination of different resources. So there's going to be 6 modules. Each one's going to be focused on an element of the employee life cycle. So we will start naturally with recruitment. We will go through performance issues. We will go through all the family stuff. There's a lot more family-friendly policies coming in. For example, shared parental leave has been in. So shared parental leave is something that has not had a very much of an uptake. Businesses don't understand it. There is going to be a lot more coming in. In fact, there was a big talk because it was Menopause Day last week. So I've had a lot of people asking me, do we need a menopause policy? So all these kind of things, and there is one available.
Well, is there?
Oh, God, yeah.
There you are. You're putting this together so to help people that, like I said, they don't know what they don't know. So what are the modules going to cover?
So the modules, basically, we're looking at the life cycle of an employee. So it's split into 6 modules. The first module is going to cover off a bit of employment legislation, kind of why you need HR, and really the areas that you need to be on top of. The idea of the mastermind itself is that by the end of the 12 weeks, you will have created a HR function that works for you.
Okay.
It's not me saying, right, this is what you need to do, then this is what you need to do. It's me giving you some tools, some knowledge, and then each individual business can create a HR support function that works with what they need to do.
Right, okay.
So we look at recruitment, we'll look at how to write job description, how to interview somebody. Other ways of recruiting people into the business, are interviews the best way to do it? We'll go through induction, because a lot of businesses, induction is where people fall down quite a lot. They think they've got them in the business, that's it, they can start, and sometimes the induction is missed. So we'll have a bit of a toolkit and a template for an induction process to look at. Then we'll go through managing people's performance. We'll look at different types of absences, so maternity, paternity, all the other kind of absences that come into play. There's a separate module on managing sickness, because that's a really key one, particularly, again, sickness in small businesses is noticed a lot more than sicknesses in a massive business. So how to manage them effectively, how to support staff and get them back into work in one way or another, if that's the outcome. Redundancies, restructures, because all businesses need to consider that at some point. And
changes.
Businesses change. Businesses buy other businesses. Even in the small business world, there's a lot of businesses that merge together, they buy other businesses. And again, it's making sure that those processes are followed correctly. TUPE is something that a lot of people get very nervous of. You hear it in big business. The reality is small businesses need to follow exactly the same process. And it's something that can be quite often overlooked if it's 2 or 3 staff.
Oh, I remember TUPE. In my day in business, I remember TUPE.
TUPE is, yeah. You know what? TUPE actually isn't that complicated. It's all the myths, the rumours, the fake news.
Yes.
That surrounds it, that makes people think it's more complicated than it is. In reality, TUPE is just, this is where you are, this is where you're going to be, these are the differences, are you okay with it? It's not that complicated, but people make it complicated.
So this sounds absolutely wonderful, this. I mean, I'm thinking about small businesses now that I was with yesterday that would just relish what you're providing here. So is this going to be a series of webinars? How's it going to work?
So yeah, how it's going to work, it's 6 modules over 12 weeks. So each module is going to be 2 weeks. So there are going to be a live webinar. I'm probably looking at doing it early-ish on a morning. I think from my experience of networking and knowing a lot of businesses like I do, a lot of business owners are quite happy to sit in the office maybe at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8 till 9 in the morning, before the day gets going.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best time to do it. And what I'm deliberately doing is I'm keeping the groups really small. I don't want more than 8 or 10 people in a group.
Okay.
Because we're going to be together for a period of 12 weeks. And I want people to be comfortable with each other, because the way it's set out is the first week of a module is going to be, I can't get away from it, me talking at you, and I can talk. And we're going to go through the topic. We then will follow up with a toolkit. The webinars will be recorded and dropped in the portal, so if you can't make it, you can access it. And I will keep them to an hour, I promise. There's then going to be a toolkit. which will cover off the module we've talked about. So,
Okay.
for example, if we're looking at absence, there'll be some examples of, how to manage a welfare meeting, some processes to follow with different various types of illness, long-term sickness, short-term, that kind of thing. And then the second week is going to be, again, a webinar. And this is the reason why I want to keep it small. It's because it's then going to be almost like a feedback and review session.
So a bit of reflecting back.
So a bit of reflecting back. So if in that week somebody has had somebody who's gone off sick, okay, so, did you find that useful? How did you approach it? Did you do anything differently based on last week? What kind of feedback have you got? And I think if the groups are small enough that people build that relationship, it's going to be quite an open group, and they'll get support from each other.
And they feel confident.
They'll feel confident and comfortable.
They're not going to ask a daft question.
They're
Because
not
we've all
gonna
been there,
ask-
haven't
yeah.
we? Right.
And if you're on a webinar with 300 other people, you're not going to be the one that wants to stick your hand up and go, can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Whereas in a small group where people have got that relationship, and it's almost like a peer support group as well.
Yeah.
So that's how they're going to be. The toolkits, the modules, the webinars, I'm going to record and save in a portal so people can dip in and out as and when they need them.
Sounds
and then
absolutely fascinating.
the way I'm planning on doing it is the module will have a bit of a kind of like a chat function. So if anybody's got any questions, they can ask them in the module, and we can sort of keep in touch over the course of the 12 weeks.
Sounds absolutely fascinating.
I'm really excited about it.
So when's it starting?
So the official launch is early 2020.
Okay.
I am talking to a lot of people. There will be I'm calling it the guinea pig launch. I think professionally it's probably a soft launch. That's probably going to be December, January time.
Okay.
And then we will, one of the things that I want to take from the guinea pig launch is feedback on what people want to see. So I will end each module by saying, okay, so next week we're going to be looking at sickness absence. I know what I think I'm going to be talking about, but tell me, what do you want me to cover?
Right, okay.
So I'm almost writing them, and I will do that all the time as we go through numerous processes of this. What do you want me to include? So people will get the value that they're looking for.
Okay.
So it will be, I won't be able to give specific HR advice on a situation, but if they want to talk specifically about, how do we deal with people with, long-term mental health issues? Okay, well, we can put that in the sickness module, and that will grow and develop.
And it's like a great question, like we were talking over coffee, it's a generic question. Well, somebody's gone off sick. Can I speak to them?
Of course you can.
Yeah, but some people...
But people don't, particularly if you get a sick note that shows any kind of stress, anxiety, mental health issues, managers are terrified of having the conversation, either because they don't want to make it worse, or they think, I'll just leave them and they'll get better on their own. But sometimes that can be the worst thing to do. If somebody is suffering with anxiety or stress and they then begin to feel isolated from work, it's very difficult to get them back in.
Right. Okay.
One of the things that I always recommend with people who are off on long-term sick is that when we do welfare meetings, we try and encourage the individual to come to the workplace. Because if somebody's off sick for 6-12 months and we do welfare meetings in their house, after 12 months to have to come back into the workplace that you've not been in for 12 months is a massive step. Whereas even if you're just popping in every 2 or 3 months just for a meeting, it keeps you in the habit of coming into work, and it doesn't make it that big obstacle that you've got to overcome at the end of it.
Got you. So Emma, if people want to find out more about this fantastic idea, I love it, how can they do that?
So I'm easily contactable via LinkedIn. Send me a message. My contact details are all on LinkedIn.
And just give me their website then, because I'm sure you've got a website.
So the website is thehrmastermind.com. There is a lot more information on there about the process, how you can sign up, and also there will be some downloads there, some hints and tips around managing absence, recruitment, that kind of thing that I've put together to give people a bit of a taste of how it works.
Okay, sounds absolutely wonderful. So there you are. If you ever get bamboozled by HR, and I'll stress again, I was in a meeting yesterday and there must have been about 20 people bamboozled. Help is at hand. So thanks for joining us today, and whatever you're doing for the rest of the day, have a great one.
Thank you, and thank you, Steve.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast for business. If you would like to feature your business in Podcast for Business, I would love to hear from you. Simply email steve@stevetwynham.com. Podcast for Business is produced and presented by Steve Twynham. Copyright applies.